My name is Tyler Willsie, and we'll be talking about carbon sequestration for this video, and this is what we did as our project. So throughout the video, we'll be talking a little bit about various things with it, like the background of where it came from, some of the benefits, ways to, ways we can use this in everyday life, and some alternatives that that people are going to say, oh, why don't we just do this instead, when some of them really aren't that reasonable. So let's get into it. Alright, to start here with the background information. Alright, so obviously carbon's put into the air by burning of fossil fuels, stuff like that. Cars deposit carbon into the air, stuff like that, and it's not good for the atmosphere. So what we need to do is we need to find ways of reducing this carbon in the atmosphere. So what carbon sequestration is, it's the process of taking carbon that's put into the atmosphere and capturing it and pumping it into the ground. This idea was first introduced by a group from Columbia University, and it's now being used for a project known as Carbfix in Iceland. And reducing carbon in the air has always been something that's been thought about or tried to do. Many various things do it actually naturally, like for instance, plants take carbon out of the air, recycle it, and turn it into oxygen. But that's just a very small scale. Nothing like this has ever been done on a large scale. And this Carbfix project is really it's really the first attempt at doing something like this. So yeah, the benefits. Obviously, with the increase in carbon in the atmosphere, it has led to rising global temperatures and weakening the ozone layer, which is obviously very harmful because of how strong the sun is. If that ozone layer is broken, then you really can't, we won't be able to live on Earth. So it's something that's very serious and a very major issue. By removing as much carbon from the atmosphere as possible, it will help reduce and fix these problems, obviously. And the more this is practiced, the more countries or people or places, etc., take part in this, the better the outcome will be, because it'll be at an even larger scale with better results. And just like everything else, everything improves over time, and because there's changes made, new technology, stuff like this. So over time, something like this can really develop into something that's very beneficial to everyone. As far as implementing this into everyday life and as many places as possible, carbon sequestration right now, it's very expensive, well, fairly expensive compared to government spending, because of the amount of money government spends. It's pretty expensive, but you really can't put a price tag on the ozone layer because of how important it is to our everyday life and being able to live on Earth. So, I mean, it's not something, it's worth spending towards because of the major importance of the ozone layer. And, for places where you can store this, you can store it underground, like I previously said, or also you can put it, that's on land, but you can also put it in the deep sea underground there, and it has, the same effect, because what happens is the ground acts, the rock layer, because you have your different layers to the Earth's core, and depending on how far you pump it, the rock layer acts as a barrier, and the carbon can't seep back through, so it keeps the ground safe, but it keeps it far enough underground to where it's not going to have an effect on any sort of wildlife. So it's a really good idea. And the more countries or places, people, etc., start using this process, the cost would most likely go down because of improvements and make it more efficient and just things like that. Other possibilities, I wouldn't say other possibilities, but more like other scenarios we can do on limited carbon. Obviously, we can't just stop burning fossil fuels because of how much we rely on them, because I think about 85%, if I'm not wrong, energy comes from the burning of fossil fuels. So it's not something you can just completely throw away that easily. You really have to, you can't just go to something else because of that. So while, and I stated here, while wind, solar, and hydropower are great ways to create energy in a cleaner way, they're not exactly advanced enough to be able to supply all our energy and demands. So that's just pretty much how sequestration works, and the benefits of it. And I think over a long period of time, this is something that can really develop into something really good, and it's something that really needs to be taken seriously because of the effects it has on the earth and its ozone layer and just atmosphere in general. So this is something that can be very useful, and I think everyone should really put a strong effort into making this something that's very good. And that's it. Thanks.